What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. The road to predict all 136 FBS level college football teams this summer is now going to take a spin into the great state of Massachusetts. We are here in the likes of Amherst. We are going to be talking about the Men of Minutes. It's the UMass Minutemen, one of the final teams for 2025 predictions. As we come to a close, I want to thank all of you for not only clicking on this video, but also for helping to support the channel. You want to support it even further? There's still time left in prediction season. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you get notified for every video I upload during the college football season. Hey, I also am a sports media graduate delving into the professional world of the industry, and if you want to see all the cool stuff that I get up to while still being up to date on what goes on this very YouTube channel, then I recommend you give me a follow on social media. Twitter, Instagram, the handle is at tailgatenate29, and you can even email me at tailgatenate29@gmail.com. Thank you all so much for however you support and interact with the channel in literally any way possible. And now, with all of that said and done, out of the way, let us begin by talking about this UMass team. UMass is going to be coached by Joe Harasimiak. Hopefully I said that last name correctly. If not, you could feel free to correct me in the comment section below. And I also do apologize for what has happened to our man over here and how pixely he is. Something must have gotten corrupted, but hey, we're going to roll with it. It happens sometimes. This is the UMass team that has never seen more than 4 wins as an FBS program. However, they are rejoining a conference and do have some solid pieces to hopefully build momentum here in 2023 or 2025. Maybe a little foreshadowing to what I think they're going to go. I also could have just misread that digit. How do we do preview predictions here on the channel? Off to a flying start already today. We're going to go through a roster overview. Offense over here to the left, defense over here to the right. And at the end of the video, we'll go through the Minutemen football schedule. I will give it a game-by-game preview and prediction. And this video overall is here to tell all of you what I think about UMass in 2025. Right down below me, returning production numbers are according to ESPN. They factor in portal additions up to a certain yet small percentage. And then even down below that, your recruiting and transfer portal ranks for the class of 2025 are both according to 24/7 Sports. Mike Bajakian is your offensive coordinator, and as we take a look at this UMass quarterback room, well, you're going to notice it's going to have a change no matter what way you slice it. Tyson Fomacon, he was the starting quarterback last year. No more collegiate eligibility for him. Mr. Fomacon has concluded his career. 1,590 yards, 8 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Again, not what you want to see from your overall starting quarterback. And it mainly is going to be a revamped room via the transfer portal. Brandon Rose did nothing's crazy stellar over at Utah, but is a nice experience piece that provides some good upside. And then Grant Jordan is a Yale transfer that I think can battle for that position. Now, Brandon Rose was the guy that you saw over here on the thumbnail screen. Again, I apologize for what happened to his picture. I do believe he's going to end up being the starter. Grant Jordan probably going to be the number 2, but there's a guy that I really want you to watch out for, right? I really want you to watch out for a freshman, a redshirt freshman by the name of A.J. Hairston. Last season, 480 yards, 5 touchdowns on 55% completion percentage. He threw 73 passes and got to keep his red shirt because he did not exceed the maximum games required. I think you really need to watch out for this guy because especially if this is the quarterback room that's going to be messy and Brandon Rose doesn't perform and Grant Jordan doesn't perform. I think when you look at a guy like Hairston, now not a guy that's going to get outside of the pocket and run. He's just not that guy, pal. He's just not that guy. But I do believe that he provides some really, really nice upside and can be a good talent. And I am a pretty firm believer that if Hairston gets his chance this year in a full-time starting role, I think he's going to take it and run. And I'm not saying he's going to be anything world-breaking and the best quarterback in UMass history, but I think he's going to be solid for you if he gets that chance. I don't think he's going to be the day one starter. Again, I'm going to give that to Brandon Rose. But Hairston and even Grant Jordan can give this quarterback battle some depth and make it very interesting. Let's talk about the skill position players. Running back room, let's start there. Top 2 backs are both gone through the transfer portal. Jalen John is over to Coastal Carolina, while CJ Hester originally transferred to Michigan and now is looking for a new home after leaving the Wolverines. Both of those guys with over 500 yards and at least 4 rushing touchdowns last year. Hester with 4, your lead rusher John with 5. So you are going to see many transfers enter this running back room. You want to talk about a room being revamped by the portal? Yeah, this running back room is that. Rocco Griffin is going to be transferring over here, and I think that's a big-time transfer. Transferring over from UTSA, he did not play that much last year, only 17 carries, but 2023, 91 carries, 483 yards. For all you math nerds, that's 5.3 yards per carry, and did have 6 rushing touchdowns that season as well. So Rocco Griffin, probably going to be the guy that you're expected to start here, with Jawan Price and Brandon Hood both transferring in to back him up. You do have some solid returners that are going to be sitting, I think, way deep in the depth chart. I think those 3 transfers are probably going to end up getting the bulk of the carries, but we'll see who emerges. I think behind Rocco Griffin. I think he's definitely going to be the leader. We'll see who backs him up in the best capacity. Wide receiver room, your lead man, Jacoby Keeney James. Gone, and gone to Detroit, and not in any collegiate aspect. He is playing for the Detroit Lions because he had a monster year last season. 839 yards, 6 touchdowns on 50 catches, and by far and away was the most reliable option that UMass had in the wide receiver room last season. However, your next 3 leading wideouts are going to be returning from last year. That's going to be starting with a guy by the name of T.Y. Harding, 334 yards and 5 touchdowns last season for him. Put up some really good, solid production. You are also going to see guys like Jaquan Gibson. You're going to see Kenyon Massey, Savion Robinson, Kazion Dia-Johnson, and others return, as well as some really solid portal pieces. It starts with Donnie Gray, who's a Northwestern transfer graduate that maybe is going to be projected to start this year, and then Tyree Kelly enters through the portal as well. Tight end room is going to be revamped as your starting tight end from last season, a guy by the name of Dominic Mazzotti, has concluded his collegiate career. So what do you see this season? You're really going to see a mix of both old and new pieces. And by old, I just mean returners, not in terms of experience or anything like that. Although Owen Anderson, the returner, projected to start, is a redshirt junior. And while you have some really experienced transfers coming in, redshirt junior Max Dowling and a graduate student in Reese Atkins. And that is your tight end room makeup. For the offensive line, this is a room that is really going to be rebooted. It's got to replace a lot of starts, a lot of production from last year. However, in saying that, there are a lot of guys in this room that have starting experience both with UMass and with other programs. Ryan Mosesso, Benjamin Roy, and Luke Payton all return as redshirt seniors or higher, with Payton being a graduate. And then 2 pretty solid pieces in from the portal, Michael Entwistle as well as Sullivan Weidman, who is a redshirt junior, as well as some guys that are going to sit in this 2 deep. Most notably is going to be Mal Glenn, guys that have seen some starts in there as well. So, okay, you have some good experience in the offensive line. I think when you look at the skill position room, nothing is necessarily going to wow you. However, I think Rocco Griffin can be a really solid running back for you. And depending on what your quarterback situation looks like, I really do believe this is the wide receiver room that's got some good, viable options. And look, we know it's UMass. This is a team that has not been good throughout their FBS history. No more than 4 wins. Yeah, cool. We get it. They have got a lot of pieces to be able to help their case this year. If they can live up to the full potential or close to it, I think the UMass offense takes a step up this season. Now, let's take a look at the defensive side of the football. Jared Keaty, or Kite, however you pronounce the last name. I do apologize if both of those, or I should say either one, but I apologize especially if both of those are wrong. The defense last year actually saw some great attributes out of its secondary. Last season, they allowed under 180 passing yards per game. That's a pretty darn good number. However, up front, and what have we talked about with a lot of teams recently? Consistency and fortitude up front. UMass didn't have it in any sense last season. Almost 200 yards per game on the ground, and they were only able to generate 16 sacks last year. Both of those numbers have got to get substantially better for this team to take a step in the right direction. So let's talk about some of that talent up front. Your top 3 defensive line tacklers are going to see a departure. It starts with a couple of top 10 guys and a couple of edge rushers from last season. Luce Julian is going to transfer off to Toledo, was the sack leader last year with 45 of them. And then Kofi Asare is going to be transferring away as well. 30 tackles and 3 sacks. He is off now with the Florida Gators. So you lose right there between those two guys already. Half of your sack production is gone. Half your sack production gone right there. So, okay, what do you see come back from your defensive front? Okay, you do see some solid interior pieces such as Tim Grant Randall and Shambry Jackson, but your two starting edge rushers are both projected to be transfer pieces. David Onuoha. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing that last name correctly. He's a Rutgers transfer. And then on the opposite side of him, a guy by the name of Joshua Nobles. He is a Jackson State transfer who formerly attended Western Michigan. So there's what your defensive line is going to look like, but it's got to be able to build in the right direction, increase that pass rush, be able to create some semblance of a solid fortitude. Your linebacker room, top two tacklers in the room, and overall, are both going to see exits from this program. Those guys' names go as follows: lead tackler and a guy by the name of, sorry, had to sneeze, did not want that on camera. Jalen Stewart, your lead tackler from last year, has transferred over to the Temple Owls. 77 tackles, 2.5 sacks for him last year, as well as Jarrell Johnson, who is just no longer playing collegiate football. So, okay, much like the defensive front, most production is going to come from returners that are going to step up and play big roles, such as Tyler Martin. However, you do have a really nice transfer that I do want to mention here. Timmy Hinspeter is a Rutgers transfer. Limited playing time with the Scarlet Knights last year, but did have 14 tackles. Not a bad season last year for Hinspeter. He'll probably slot in and play that will position, and I think could be a really good linebacker for you. And as we start to transition into talking about the secondary, they do have the star position. That's sort of your combination linebacker and defensive back. Can help rush, can drop in to that box, can also drop back in coverage, give you a 5 defensive back look. You do have a transfer coming into that unit in Malcolm Green, who's over from Virginia, but a notable returner in Darion Craig is going to be coming back. He was a top 5 tackler last year with 44 tackles, 2.5 sacks, did have a pass defended last year as well. He's a guy that can kind of play a little bit of everywhere, so I'm interested to see how they use him as that Swiss Army knife. The secondary is like a lot of this defense. It loses a lot of pieces, however, has some nice production coming back and some solid starters. A guy that's going to rally around, or I should say, a guy that they have a leader that people can rally around. In the secondary, it's going to be Jeremiah McGill, who had 28 tackles last year. Pretty solid production. Ryan Barnes also returns, but you do get some good transfers in, especially D.D. Snyder. He's going to slot into that strong safety position. Guys, he really had a pretty good year at Ball State last year. 55 tackles, did have 2 interceptions as well as a pass defended. Overall, a really solid season at a D.D. Snyder. I think he'll slot into the secondary unit well. And then TJ McGee is looking to transfer back, or not transfer back, but transfer in here. He's over from Davidson. He will be playing the cornerback position opposite of a returner in Ryan Barnes. Special teams, they are going to be overhauled through the transfer portal. Projected starters, according to ourlads.com, Keegan Andrews at punter and Derek Morris as your place kicker. Kickers are people too. We got to show them some love. That's your special teams report. When we take a look at things here for this UMass team, I think there's some solid talent here. Now, does UMass need to improve a lot within their program? Yes, absolutely. UMass is the program, again, I'll say it for the last time. They have not seen more than 4 wins in their FBS history. However, like I just mentioned earlier, they do have a lot of solid pieces on this roster, and you'll notice something about their schedule. They are rejoining the MAC conference. They were there from 2015 until, or I should say from 2012 until 2015, where they've been an independent for the last decade until this year. They are back in the MAC conference. It was only a 4-year stint last time. We'll see if they can make it a little bit longer, and they probably will because of the departure of Northern Illinois coming next season. We won't worry about that now. Before we worry about predicting the schedule, let's take a look below me at these odds courtesy of FanDuel. Not me telling you to go place your money. I am no one to talk about sports betting with. I am no expert in that department, but these numbers do provide some good context to see how good the odds makers in Vegas think UMass is going to be this year. And well, as expected, not very good. Tied, or I should say not tied, but they have the second longest odds to win the conference. They might be tied for second longest. I'm not sure. Have the highest odds that you can get on FanDuel to reach the playoff. Understandable for obvious reasons. But that win total, 3.5. Okay, Vegas, kind of like me, is putting a little bit of fate in UMass. On top of the fact that ways it's a pretty workable schedule, especially in this first half. Now, I hear what you're saying, Nate. They got 2 road games against Power 4 opponents in the first half. How is that a workable schedule? Well, I'll tell you by just diving on into it. Temple and Bryant. You open your season with those 2 teams. And look, I think Temple has got some good talent. I think if Giovanni McCoy puts everything together that we've seen him do throughout his career, you're going to see a really good starting quarterback. And I do like their head coach a lot. Casey Keeler's coming over from Sam Houston State. I just don't think Temple is going to be that great this year. I think there's a lot going on in this program that Keeler's going to have to try to build up. And while the Owls will see good moments, I got this as a loss for Temple. I think UMass is going to win their opening game here against the Temple Owls, and UMass starts 1-0. I like some of the overall pieces a little bit better. I think Giovanni McCoy is a better quarterback than whatever UMass can throw onto the football field. However, I think overall, UMass is just going to click a little bit more, and I think they get a little bit of a surprising season opening win. Now, with UMass, you can never count the FCS team out, and that is not a dig on UMass. Well, okay, maybe a little bit. Sorry, Minutemen fans. I didn't mean it like that. However, Bryant is not going to be a bad FCS level team. Are they going to be great? Probably not, but they're not going to be horrible. And they could give UMass some trouble in ways. I still think that UMass, again, with some of the upside that they got, I think they should be able to win this one. And how about that, Minutemen fans? You're starting out 2-0. Now, obviously, that immediately is going to go drop back down to 500. There's just no way that you're going to beat either Iowa or Missouri on the road. I don't even have to mention a single name there, although I will. Mark Gronowski is going to give a much better quarterback situation to this Iowa team. And then Missouri did lose a lot of talent from last season, including Brady Cook, Luther Burden, running back duo. However, they feel like they got their guy, a Penn State transfer in Bo Pribula, that everyone in Columbia, Missouri is really excited about. And so Iowa and Missouri should be able to easily handle the UMass Minutemen here. But now you're diving into conference play. Conference play, I think, in ways can be workable. However, UMass does play a lot of teams that are projected to be really pretty good in the conference this year, and that starts with Western Michigan. Now, all of the directional Michigan schools, I think, can be dangerous in their own ways this year, but Western Michigan is by far and away the most dangerous one out of those 3. Brock Lowry coming back. I think Jalen Buckley, even though having to step up into that full-time lead rusher role, is going to be one of the best running backs in the conference. I think you got some nice receiver pieces and a defense that could perform pretty darn well this year. Central Michigan is one of those teams that if they explode this year, wouldn't necessarily be surprised. Western Michigan will beat UMass. However, UMass is going to win a conference game, and even though it's on the road, Kent State is going to go down. I just don't have a lot of faith in Kent State to be able to win a whole lot of competitive games this year, mainly because this program is just in such disarray. They are in such a mess. Kenny Burns got fired. They have an interim head coach. They're trying to jumble a lot of things around in this program. And this is a program overall that's just way, way down there. They're at the bottom of college football right now. Some may even say rock bottom. I definitely will say that. You really feel for the people in Kent, Ohio. This must be really hard to go through, and hopefully this is a Kent State program that can get back on their feet soon. However, much like last year, this year, going to be a really big struggle for the fans of the Golden Flashes. So I think that's going to be a win. And would you take a look at your first half of the schedule? How about that? Now, I did tell you the first half of the schedule was pretty workable. Was I lying? No, absolutely not. You can beat Temple. You can beat Bryant. Maybe if you really piece everything together, you can beat Western Michigan. You might have to do a little bit of convincing to get me to believe that. Second half of the schedule, though, is I think really where you're going to have to start to scratch and claw to try to find some games that you can win, because you got a lot of talented teams on this side of the schedule. We'll start with Buffalo. Buffalo's going to be a really good team this year. No better way to put it. Buffalo's a team that can surprise a lot of people in this conference this season. They have a quarterback coming in Roberson that they feel like is going to be an upgrade. He's a guy that used to come all the way back from Penn State, now is transferring over from Kansas State. He also played at UConn, a guy that's been a little bit of everywhere, but they got a lot of returning skill position players such as Al-Jay Henderson at running back, Victor Snow at wide receiver, a stupidly good linebacker room that's going to be led by Red Murdoch. The Buffalo's just going to be a team you really are going to want to keep a close eye on in Maction this season. And the game before Maction kicks off at Central Michigan, I told you again, these are directional Michigan schools that are going to be dangerous in their own ways. Now, Central Michigan, you may very well pen in, or not pen in, you may very well pencil in as the least competitive one because they did lose a lot and they have the most questions out of either of the three Michigan schools in this conference. However, when I take a look at Central Michigan, still see some good pieces, some good upside, especially this being a home game for them against UMass. I got this as a win for the Chippewas. You get your bye week, and then Maction starts, baby. You got 3 Tuesday games, 1 Wednesday game. Let's break it all down. Really, when I look at these, I see the possibility that UMass can cause some Maction havoc. However, I see it as unlikely. Again, you always have to consider it as a possibility. Maction is chaos. Maction is always chaos. But I don't really like their chances against any of the teams they play in this back third of the schedule. We'll start with Akron. I know people may sit there and laugh, ha 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 ha. Akron, right? A team that's been sitting at the bottom of college football, much like UMass, for quite some time now. However, I would not sleep on this Akron team if I were you. I do think Joe Moorhead is a fairly solid head coach. He's good enough to get the job done, and Akron's got a lot of solid pieces, albeit there are a lot of good pieces transferring out. That is true. But I think they have a lot of really nice guys. It starts with Ben Finley at the quarterback position, probably one of the better quarterbacks that Akron has had over the past couple of seasons, at least in my memory. Ben Finley's going to be a guy that's going to help lead this offense. He's seen a lot of college football. I really value his experience level, and an Akron team that we'll see a lot leave off this defense, sure, but I think they still got some solid pieces here, some really nice guys, and Akron's going to be a team that has the potential to make some noise while it's not an overt prediction that or not overt, an outright prediction that I have. I would still watch out for this team. They can be dangerous in a couple different ways. Akron beats UMass. Northern Illinois, going to replace some production from last year, but after coming off one of the bigger seasons in program history, I think they can absolutely keep it up this season. They got a really good head coach, albeit the schedule they have and the way Maction's going to be this year, they really could struggle, but I do think they are going to beat UMass. Too much talent. They are more talented than this Minutemen team, and they definitely have the better coach. Last 2 games of the year, I think it's going to be really hard to find a win in either one of those. The team in Athens, Ohio, the namesake of the state. Okay, sorry, Buckeye fans. We all know who the namesake of the state is, but I'm talking about the team who the state is named after, Ohio. Or I should say the team who is named after the state. You guys get what I'm trying to say. The team in Athens, the Bobcats, they're still going to be really good this year, even without Tim Albin. They are hiring from within, promoting from within their program. Parker Navarro's coming back. C.A. Bangura returns to be a running back after trying the Power 4 experiment and it not working out for him. They got a lot of good wide receiver pieces. Defensively, yeah, they got to replace a lot, but they're still going to be good. And then Bowling Green. Eddie George is back in the state of Ohio to be the head coach with the Falcons. And I think Bowling Green can surprise some people this year. A lot of people think, oh, look at all they lost, especially the stupidly good tight end in Harold Fannin, who's going to wear the same colors in the same state with the Cleveland Browns in the NFL. But Bowling Green has still got a lot of nice talent, and I think Eddie George is a pretty solid coach. So overall, you take a look, just the 1 conference win, but winning 2 non-conference games, you go 3-5. Winning more than 1 game in Maction is going to take a little bit of work. However, you win those 2 games and you have some pieces perform. Maybe AJ Hairston steps up and is that guy that, again, I think he can be at his peak. You're looking at a UMass team that probably could at least equal that 4-win total. If not, I have my record range. If they can get some stuff figured out, maybe they can win 3 games in Maction play. I definitely don't think that's crazy to say. However, again, overall, UMass is a team that's building. They're a program that is still trying to figure it out. Will they this year? Not to the extent that some Minutemen fans would like to see. However, it is an improvement off last year, and I think the schedule sets them up well to build in 2025. That's going to do it, though, for the Minutemen. Let me know what you think about UMass in the comment section below. Remember to play hard but tailgate harder. See you guys in the next video. Just 5 teams left. Goodbye.